When you allow stillness, you can hear your higher self, you can hear God, you can hear nature. You allow space. And with that space, you allow inspiration. You have an opportunity to zero in on your vision, or you have an opportunity to say, I don't have a vision yet. But women need time and stillness to do that. Carve it out, give yourself that gift, and whatever direction you decide to go, really, really own it.
You are listening to the Living Her Next Phase podcast with Bree Cobb. Whether you're entering empty nest territory, navigating a new relationship, nurturing new friendships, pivoting careers, getting fit and sexy, or just thinking there has to be more than this, you are in the right place.
Meet Keanna O'Quinn, the founder of Sommelier, which is a company that designs intentional sound experiences for luxury events, brands, and gathering spaces. She is my featured guest today on the Living Her Next Phase podcast. Yes, we discuss business, but this conversation is about so much more than music. It's about intuition, reinvention, stillness, creativity, learning to trust yourself before you have proof that things will work out. So check out Keanna O'Quinn.
Hi, Keanna. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I am doing just fine. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm excited to interview you and have you share a lot about your business and about who you are and, hopefully inspire some women along the way.
It's my pleasure.
Good, good. So I invited you today to sit in the guest chair because I was intrigued when I came across your business named Sommelier. And I had to go take a look because the name alone is intriguing. But then when I reviewed your site and I read how you described your business, it really just kind of elicited a feeling for me. And I just said, I have to connect. I have to make sure that we get to talk to one another so you can take me through how you got to where you are today. But before we get started, I just wanted you to describe to our listeners and viewers who you are. Like, how would you start this off just to say, I'm Keanna Quinn and blank?
I'm Keanna O'Quinn, and I am becoming.
Okay.
That's what I would say.
Okay. So we'll dive a little deeper as we kind of go along. So okay. So I read on your site that you have the description is the art of sonic creation. What does that mean?
Well, I have always believed that music is more than entertainment. I view it as architecture for emotion, feeling, because more often than not, when people describe music, it's usually a reflection of how it makes them feel.
Hmm.
So the work that I do is rooted in design for private events, luxury events, weddings, seated dinners, brand activations, gathering spaces, just gatherings of all kinds, restaurants, hotels, you name it. And when I design, I am thinking about how our client wants their guests to feel in the space. And for me, music, it's music itself is about tempo, cadence, pitch, frequency, and all of those, technical terms work in conjunction with how we respond to an environment as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I do is experience design. We know that music can shape how we, our moods. There is often talk about how music can people, when they listen to music, they either feel more productive or they feel calm, or
Mhm.
they can remember a moment based on a song that they hear. So music is very much tied to memory. But for me, I like to take all of those pieces and put them together, so that the way that a room feels is considerate of the body. And my work is really about helping people to experience moments more deeply through sound.
Okay. So, how does one get from I want to celebrate X event? How do you extract from them the feeling that they want to kind of bring forth in their event? So if I'll take a wedding out of it because I think that's a little different. That may be a little easier.
Mhm. It seems
So
so. It seems so, but
yeah,
you'd be
not
surprised.
really, because I'm
No,
thinking.
ma'am. Because every wedding is different. Every wedding has its own DNA. We're dealing with two human beings that have completely different backgrounds from one another, and
Hmm,
have completely different backgrounds from the previous wedding that I may
yeah.
have designed for. So it's not an easy undertaking, and it is not, each wedding is different. There's no like one size fits all ever.
So then, how do you extract from them what the sound should be, what should the music be, and the overall experience? So separate from design. Well, I guess I can't say that separate from design. I guess it all interconnects, right? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
how do you do that? I'm clearly a layperson.
I I'm sorry, say that again.
I'm clearly a layperson.
You know what? I don't see you as a layperson. I believe genuinely that everyone has an inner sonic sommelier. That
Hmm,
everyone, and for those who aren't necessarily familiar with the word, sommelier is typically used as it pertains to wine. They are wine aficionados and experts
hmm,
who specialize in pairing wines with cuisine.
hmm,
And they study wine for many, many years on end. And it's such there's such a science to it. It's such a regarded art. It's very revered. And because so much goes into it, I think it's so well respected. And when it comes to gathering, I think that more often than not, music is an afterthought. It's
hmm.
something that, we might throw on if we're having a backyard barbecue. But if you sit back and pay attention, whoever's on the grill is doing a little two step, or they're bopping their head. They might add a little extra seasoning to the meat, right?
Hmm, hmm.
It's influencing how people are connecting with themselves and how they're connecting with the environment and with one another. And so when I have a client that comes in, whether it's a wedding or whether it's a brand, it's about initiating a conversation about how they want to feel, about, again, how they want, the other people in the room to feel, what they want the guests to be saying as they leave the event. I ask questions about their background and the kinds of music that they listen to,
Hmm,
when they're working out, or when they have a night off on a Friday evening and it's been a hectic work day, and they're kicked back with a really nice bottle of wine or their favorite beer. What are you listening to on your way to work? I'm from New York. I'm born and raised in Chicago, but I lived in New York most of my adult life. And
Hmm,
we commute there on the train. And so
hmm.
having the right soundtrack to, to transport you from home to where you're going to be spending the next 8 hours of your day, to get you
Hmm.
into a frame of mind. Um, those are the questions that I ask and lean into, because it helps to inform, one, about who the person is, and what they want, how they want to move, and how they want the room to move.
Hmm.
And so, as an energy conductor, whether I am proposing a live band or proposing a DJ or even proposing a curated playlist. I am designing for movement.
Okay. Now, would you consider yourself an event planner or kind of the visionary behind all the events? So I don't know if saying event planner is minimizing, what you do, but if it is, let me know. And if it's not that, what is it?
That is such actually a very insightful question because I've had people liken me to an event planner, and I have such a great respect for event planners. We partner with event planners for pretty much every single gathering that we design music for, and they have so much on their plates, and they're juggling different vendors. They are the closest to the client, and they just have a lot on their shoulders in terms of bringing the event to fruition successfully and capturing the client's vision. um, I would say my work is like a subset of that, in that, we often view aesthetic as a visual element. Sound is also aesthetic. And so what I'm doing is, I'm dancing with the planner, and very similar to how like a movie director, a film director is creating the motion picture, and then there's the music supervisor that comes in and either composes arrangements, so that it fits with what's happening in a specific scene,
Hmm.
or goes out and curates specific songs and artists that fit the mood and the intensity of a scene. That's essentially what I do. I would liken it more so to a composer, an arranger, a music supervisor,
Hmm. Interesting. Because
but for real life.
for real life. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um, how did you get started? Like how did Sonic Sommelier come to be? Two different questions. So let me ask you the latter one first. How did Sonic Sommelier come
Okay.
to be?
I was working in events as a singer, and I, as much as I would like to say that's all I was doing, that would be a lie. I was working at an entertainment company, and you know how we go into, as women, we go into a space and we just multiply
Right.
whatever it is that we're given. And so I was working at a company, and aside from being a lead singer and a band leader, I was contributing to A&R. I was contributing to artist development, marketing, logistics, all of the things. And I decided to go independent after asking for equity and being rejected. Um,
Huh.
I knew that I'd help to contribute to the success of the company, but I was very young. And looking back, I'm really proud of myself that I had the guts to go in and ask for equity. I didn't realize that's what I was asking for at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But um, it's funny because I walked out of the office that day, and before I could even make it home, the owner was calling me, attempting to cut a deal. And I felt like, I feel like this was a sign
Mm.
that I could do it on my own. I knew it would be a big undertaking. I wasn't aware of how big an undertaking it would be, because working in the luxury sector is quite a feat, to
Mm-hmm.
say the least. But I knew that I could do it. Like I said, I was naive enough to believe that anything was possible, and thank God that I was, because it led to me having the time to just sit with my thoughts. And I started to come into the awareness that my brain worked a little differently, that I was very meticulous about details. And I whenever I was crafting a set list or a performer or a performance or a production, I was taking all of these details into consideration: the timeline, the demographic of the guests, the menu,
Mm.
the wine list, the start and end time, whether people would be dancing or whether they would be seated. What kind of event was it? What's the objective? What are people coming together for?
And this is what you were
And
doing at at an employer's business. This is what your
I
role.
was.
Hmm.
I was, but I didn't have, I was so booked and busy, thank you, that
Mhm.
that I didn't have the time to really think about what I was doing. And so when I went independent, there was this quiet that I was given, and I sat with my thoughts and had an opportunity to really to realize that there was a methodology, that I was very methodical about these things. And I was just at a cafe one day and I started to research music. And as I mentioned before, I came across these findings, you know, that we hear all the time about music and mood and music and productivity. But I started to find things that were lesser known, like how music can influence the taste receptors and how
Hmm.
music can um, make something taste less fresh or more fresh.
Interesting.
How music can enhance our connection, like I said, to ourselves or to other people. Um, and then I realized that I was pairing music with events, and that's where the sommelier concept came in. You know, wine sommeliers are pairing wine and food. I realized that I was pairing music and experiences, and Sonic Sommelier was born. I
Yeah.
can't even take credit for it. You know, sometimes you have those moments and it feels like a download.
Yes.
Um, is it Da Vinci that said that the artwork all is already there? He was just chipping away, you know, at the marble until it revealed itself. That's how I
Mm.
feel about creativity. You
Right.
know, I don't think that it's mine. I think that it's born through the quiet and the
Yes.
willingness to avail yourself
Mhm.
to whatever the art form requires.
Right.
And
I agree with that. It's like you have to be still, but also be open. I was wondering what. I'm sorry.
yeah.
My light just went out. There we go.
Oh no.
That's important. but
Absolutely.
but being still and being open are very important. And I agree. Like there are people who are writers, and you can't write on command, right? You can write when the moment hits you, that feeling, that creativity, and then all of a sudden it's like a burst, right?
Yep.
You can write if it is exploring so many chapters, if you're writing a book or if you're writing an article, whatever it is, it just kind of comes to you. People talk about things that
Yes.
come to them in dreams, you know what I mean? When
Yeah.
it's just like you awake in the middle of the night, you're like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
idea, like everything is there.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Quincy Jones is famous for saying that um his creative juices would flow in the middle of the night, and the way he saw it is that the creativity would visit him, and if he didn't wake up and write down and create whatever it was that came to him, it was going to go up the road to the next composer.
Yes.
So yeah.
You know what? And a lot of people, like I'm one of those people who stays up very late because I'm able to create and work when it's completely still. You know, there's not much going on television. If there is, it'll be background noise for me. But the phones aren't ringing, people aren't talking to you. Even if people are home, for me, everyone's kind of retreated.
Yep.
That's when I do the best work. And it's because it's that still time. But I could also relate to what you just mentioned with Quincy Jones because at night I've awakened, oh, I gotta write that down for that same reason. Once I heard someone say what he said, which is
Yep.
if you don't capture those ideas and release them or actually execute them, they'll be given to someone else to do. And I am definitely like an entrepreneur, you know, like when you talk about serial entrepreneurs, I like to try different things. I used to keep on an adjacent wall, or nearby wall actually, and I would have all the ideas that I had, big ideas that I never executed, but who did execute them. So that
Oh,
would give me
wow.
inspiration to go forward. And it was just like looking at that. I mean, literally, and there are companies that you actually know about.
Wow.
And I would just be so heartbroken, but not where it stopped me, but it inspired me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It
Yes.
validated me to say your ideas make sense. You know,
Yes.
so
Yes. Absolutely.
so yeah.
Absolutely.
So you talked about maybe you were naive to think that all those things that you were doing and then you could branch out on your own. Sometimes I think that that's what we need, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
when you know too much, you're too scared to take the risks and go forward, right? You just kind of get stuck because you're concerned about money. There's always something else you want to do. There's always going to be some reason why you should or should not move for monetary reasons. But when you listed all the things you were already doing for this business, it's like everything was being set up for you to take that step, you know? So I'm glad that you actually embraced that and took that step. So can you share like the day that it really hit you, like today's the day? Like right this moment I need to walk out the door and start my own thing, and what did that look like and what did that feel like?
Oh boy. So I wish it were that simple.
Hmm.
I toyed with the idea of leaving for about a year, maybe even a year and a half.
Mhm.
I knew that there was more for me, and that in my mind I was going to hit a ceiling at some point. And for me, when I work um, with an employer, I like to make myself indispensable. I want to be, the best support. I like to I'm a team player, genuinely a team player. I like to contribute and collaborate. And when the environment or the culture of a place does not reflect my values and my integrity, it becomes really difficult for me to show up. And so as I grew in the company, I just started to see and feel things that didn't resonate with who I am as a woman. And so I knew the time was coming. And I also felt like as a performer, I wanted to expand my horizons. I've always been interested in the music business. I've been performing since I was about 5 years old,
Okay.
and I grew up watching Behind the Music on VH1.
Mm.
And even like True Hollywood Story, or what's the one on MTV? You think you know, but you have no idea. This is the true story. I think it was called True Life. I think it was called True Life.
I don't remember.
And so I was always upset, even biopics. I've always been obsessed with learning more about the lives of artists, but also the business aspect and what contributed to their success or their demise.
Mm.
And on VH1, Behind the Music, more often than not, those were stories of people who fell flat and they fell hard. And
Wow.
studying that as a child, I was like, okay, I want to avoid that at every turn. Um, so,
Well,
so
at least
I
it didn't
decided,
deter you.
yes, yes, I decided very young that I did not want to enter the traditional music industry for that very
Okay.
reason. It just there didn't seem to be a lot of incentives.
Well, we're also
And so
seeing
entering,
now artists that are still performing like they were performing 20, 30 years ago. And it's like, you need to evolve into something else, you know? So it's good that you noticed that at a very young age.
yes, yes. And at the time, I feel like when I made the decision, it wasn't really being encouraged. You look at someone like Tiana Taylor right now, who's incredibly successful. She
She's
started as a
thriving.
singer,
Hmm.
and yes, and then she matriculated into a creative director. She was helping Summer Walker with performances and really just um lending her creative gifts to production, stage production.
Hmm.
Then she was, I think, doing a lot of A&R. I know there's an artist that she worked with for through like Nike, or the Jordan brand, I believe it was. But then she transitioned into acting. Like it's like the sky is the limit. Now in 2026, you can wear a lot of different hats. Kanye West, many, many, many years ago, he was one of the first artists to begin to say, okay, yeah, I love music, but initially I was a producer. He had to break down walls to go from producing to being an actual artist. And then he said, well, I like being an artist, but guess what? I want to do fashion as well. And the fashion industry laughed at him.
Hmm.
And he broke that door down. Pharrell is another incredible
Oh,
example. He
yes.
is one of my biggest inspirations. So I feel like I don't want to say ahead of my time, because I believe that these people who have succeeded at that were doing it then as well. It just wasn't being amplified. And so now wearing different hats and excelling in many different areas is more so accepted and encouraged. And at the time I was like, well, I don't want to be just one thing. I would like to flourish here. And if I can, let me see how I can finagle that. And when I took it to the owner of the company, he continued to offer me more money in the current role that I was in as a lead singer.
Hmm.
And I was like, that's interesting. He just keeps giving me more and more raises.
Right.
And I appreciate it. It was definitely something that helped to contribute to my quality of life. As a single woman at the time, living in New York City, living on my own, that's huge when you're an artist,
Yes.
when you have a regular 9 to 5 corporate job. So
Hmm.
I had great health insurance. I mean, I was thriving. But
Hmm.
it got to a point where I had to ask myself, okay, if you can be bought, then how are you different from the people that you were watching on Behind the Music, And if you can be bought, then is that really who you are? Is that the Keanna that you want to be in this world? And the answer was very much no. And
Right.
so it got to a point where I said, I don't want any more raises. In fact, some of the ideas that I have, I would like to invest in them. You've recouped everything that you've invested in with me. I want to bring my own money forth, and I
Hmm.
want my name on this project. And I will pay you a commission for what it is that I have created. And of course, that was not cool with him.
Right.
And we had some really huge events coming up that I was slated to perform for. And because I think he was so threatened by my ideas and what it could mean, that I was thinking in this very big way all of a sudden, to him, all of a sudden, it was gradual, that he said, well, um, you have a choice. Either you can continue to perform and we can move forward with your ideas, but I need to be the one to invest in them. I'm not going to go with this structure that you're, proposing. And I said, well, then I think we need to go our separate ways. So when I went to approach him, I thought we were just having a meeting. I was not prepared to walk away and, go off into the world on my own. It was such a dramatic moment, a 20 something year old girl living away from home for the first time in the big city,
Hmm.
leaving a very successful company where I was making really great money and just stomping off down Fifth Avenue. Who did I think I was? But
Right.
it took some audacity. And so I didn't go in there knowing that I was quitting. It was something that I rose to that occasion when he let me know that he was not going to meet me where I was, that there was no negotiation whatsoever. And
Mm.
that didn't work for me.
There, you definitely displayed a lot of strength because that's
Thank
hard
you.
to do. It's hard to one believe in yourself, and especially being a woman and standing in your strength, standing in your talent, and walking in there with And you already admitted that he was willing to keep giving you money. So he noticed your value, but you also had to see that you could do it on your own. Like the safety wasn't necessarily needed at that time. Like you knew that you could recreate it for yourself. And I think
Absolutely.
often that ends up being the thing that it takes time to get there for many people. And like I was on LinkedIn earlier today and I saw a post from a friend of my son's. And he talked about having a side hustle, like being a consultant, and then having a side hustle for like the last 3 years that he really enjoys doing. But you go and you're educated in private school, you go to a great college, and you come out and you do the consultancy, you do what you're expected to do. But you know that creative passion, if you're a creative person, that passion is just gnawing at you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he basically just got laid off, like so many people. So he learned that he was one of 11,000 people being laid off. All right, that big ass number.
Wow.
And so he just kind of described all the emotions that he had experienced week to week to week until he got to like week 10 or 11 and basically is like, you know what? Maybe I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to pursue the thing that I created 3 years ago on my own. I'm just going all in for it. I'm just betting on
Mm.
myself. And I think more people are starting to see that today. And it's a great thing. Nobody wants to be forced out, but sometimes you got to think maybe God is doing that intentionally, forcing you out so that you can have that life that you want to actually create, you know?
Indeed.
So, like,
Indeed.
so the story that you just shared, I'm sure it's going to help some other people too. Just go, you know what? May if they're experiencing similar things to what you experienced, or something similar to what I just described, maybe it'll be that thing that gives them the answer. You know?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. And as someone, I've always been a plan B girl.
Hmm.
I have a graduate degree in teaching,
Hmm.
and I was a teacher for a few years before I decided to, take the big jump into, artistry and entrepreneurship and a non-traditional life when it comes to work and career. And um, stability is the thing,
Oh
knowing that you're going to get paid
yeah, it matters.
every 2 weeks is that's a huge comfort. And I do not judge anyone who decides that that is something that they value. It's really, really important to know who you are, what you
Hmm.
value, what you want your future to look like. um you know what brings you peace and what brings you anxiety before making a decision. And even then, when you don't have all the answers, like you said, sometimes God will just say, here's a little nudge, boop,
Right. And I'll make the decision
and you
for
have to
you.
swim.
Boom. Versus the nudge, just like a hammer on the head. So
Absolutely,
you
absolutely. When it's your
talked
calling, it's
about
your calling. When you're
right,
chosen, you're chosen. So
right. That's true. So you talked about safety and security. And so I'm thinking, it's either that or it's the handcuffs, right? Because I also know people who, and again, I'm using my son's friends because I mean, I've had my own experiences in corporate and entrepreneurially, but the things that are top of mind are like he's got a couple of friends, not a couple, a few in finance, and one of which he
mm,
often says like he's making a lot of money, but he's unhappy. If you are unhappy and you are early in your career, the career that you are nurturing, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of life to be lived still. You haven't even started with, getting really further along in your career. Then once you add
yeah,
family into that and kids, I mean,
oh, yeah.
you're really stuck, to be more and
Oh,
more
yeah,
difficult. But then again, like you said, you can't
absolutely.
judge people for those decisions. So let
Mm-hmm,
me ask
mm-hmm,
you
mm-hmm.
about your early beginnings. Not childhood, because you touched on that. But you mentioned that you have a graduate degree in teaching. So where did you teach before? Like what level, what subjects did you teach? And then,
I taught oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
and then I was going to ask, like, how did you go from that to then working for someone who's planning events? Like, what steps took place in between?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big
Quite a
difference.
jump. Quite a big difference. Yes. Was not part of the plan, but then again, it kind of was. So I started teaching through a wonderful organization called Teach for America,
Mhm.
fresh out of undergrad. And I got my graduate degree while teaching in Chicago public schools. I was able to go back to where I was born and raised and serve in the community there. And it was one of the most gratifying experiences of my life. I taught sixth grade self contained for 2 years. And so that means that I had sixth graders all day, with the exception of like their special classes like library or computer or gym. And so I taught all subjects across all disciplines, math, science, geography, English, you name it. I taught
Right.
all the subjects. And what's interesting is that my second year teaching, the administration decided to create homogenous groups amongst the sixth through eighth grade. So I had sixth grade boys for my second year of teaching.
Oh, fun.
Um, yeah, 22, 23 years old, fresh out in the real world.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
have it was very interesting, but I love those kids. I'm still in touch with them to this day. They have children of their own, they're married, they're
Mhm.
successful.
Oh, nice.
One of the experiences of my life. Yeah, so I taught for 4 years in Chicago public schools. The last 2 years I taught computers across all grades, kindergarten to eighth grade, and teaching kindergartners computer is a really interesting job because their little tiny hands can barely like grip the mouse, but they're so smart at that age.
Mhm.
And especially now, you see little kids at age 0.5 with iPads,
Yes.
cell
And you
phones,
see
and
them swiping. That is amazing to me.
they know how to get on YouTube and
Right.
everything.
How do you, like, barely a year old, and you're able to identify the icon, right? So you know where the app is, and you know how to get to
Yes.
the program you want to watch. Like, that's amazing.
Yes. The young ones are always very, very smart, especially when
Mm.
it comes to technology.
Yes.
So yeah, I did that for 4 years and then decided that I wanted to move to New York City. It's something that I wanted to do right out of high school,
Mm.
but I was concerned that I wasn't ready. And my father has always been huge on education, and I hadn't done enough research on New York and what schools I may have been interested in there. And so it just made more sense to stay in Illinois. And so once I decided I wanted to move to New York, I'd had a few years of real life job experience under my belt. The Teach for America network is a very, very tight knit network, so I was able to connect with the office in New York, and was able to secure a position in the administration of a performing arts high school in Harlem.
Mm.
And coming from a performing arts background, that was just heaven for me.
Mm.
It was just everything I'd ever dreamt. And
Right.
I was the director of partnerships for the school, which means that I was the face of the school, and it was my job to expose the students to as many arts opportunities as possible, and to bring as many arts opportunities into the school as possible. So
Mm.
anything that had to do with field trips or internships, mentorships, securing funding. I managed a $500,000 Gates budget. I secured a grant from um, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Tony Bennett, forgive
Mm.
me, Tony. Um, I secured funding from Tony Bennett. He came to the school, and we had like a behind the actors in the actor studio,
Mm.
which I think is a popular show. Are you
It
familiar with the
is.
show?
Yes, I am. Yep.
I would host those for the students and bring in, arts professionals, whether, they were musicians that were on tour for Beyonce, or Broadway actors that performed in The Lion King, or major recording artists,
Hmm.
you name it. It was such a beautiful experience, and I was very grateful to be in a position to provide the kids with, expose them to experiences that I didn't have as a high school student, because I went
Okay.
to a regular high school.
Right, right.
And so I was interested in all of those things, but I didn't have access to it. So I was very passionate about it. And one day I was going through a breakup, and I was sitting at home on a Saturday afternoon. And I'd promised my family that if I hadn't made it by a certain age, that I auditioned for American Idol, which was huge at the time. I don't know,
Mm.
it might still be big, American Idol.
Yeah.
And so I went to the website and saw that they were having auditions in Boston the very next weekend. I called up my best friend who lived in New York at the time as well. She still does. And I was like, hey, you want to drive to Boston with me to audition for Idol? She was like, girl, say less. Rented the car, went and got a cute little outfit. We drove to Boston. I didn't even know what I was going to sing until we made it to Boston. And there were just so many rounds of auditions. There are ones that they don't even show, they don't televise on the show, but made it through each round until I made it to Hollywood, and I made it all the way to the end of Hollywood week.
Oh, wow.
And the producers, who I absolutely love still to this day, um, they attempted to pin me against another girl because we chose to sing the same song in the same way,
Mm.
and they wanted me to take the bait that this girl had must have heard me rehearsing the song, and so she
Uh-oh.
had to have copied me. And aren't I
Oh.
so upset,
Oh.
and again,
They're like nudging a
young
little
and naive.
bit. Let's create some drama.
Absolutely. Because it's a show first, right?
Yes.
It's a show first and a singing competition second. And again, it just didn't resonate with who I am as a woman. And I was like, no, we probably just had the same idea at the same time. And they were like, oh,
Mm.
okay. That was the end of my journey.
Oh, oh. So you weren't playing the game well, according to them.
Can you repeat that?
I said you weren't playing the game well, probably according to them. You weren't willing to
I
like get
was
involved in all this stuff, you know?
not a drama queen, not a drama queen. I don't want to be pitted against other women. I don't want to be pitted against other people. I'm
Right.
little Miss Kumbaya. Let's all get along, you know, unless we absolutely cannot. So yeah, I was not a good fit for the show, but it was wonderful training ground. And when I made it back to New York, I still had my job at the school.
Mm.
And so I took a little time off. I started to audition for Broadway productions, and, was getting callbacks for like ensemble roles, but I do not have any dance experience. And so
Mm.
aside from a cute little two step or the Tootsie Roll, I'm no good. So that didn't work out. It was always a compliment to be called back, though, especially considering I didn't have any theater experience at
Mm.
all. But what it was doing was building my confidence. And it
Okay.
just so happens that one of the girls that I sang with on Idol, we all kept in touch. We view each other as like battle buddies. Some of us have gone on to do amazing things. I was on the season with
Mm.
Todrick Hall, in fact, and right now he's done so much. You just Google him. But yeah,
Hmm.
I kept in touch with one of the girls. She mentioned that she was going to find an entertainment company that provided music performances for events. And I said, that's something I would be interested in. And I was like, but I want to also keep my job, that safety thing, right? That
Mm.
security.
Yes.
So I had a meeting with my principal. And she said, Keanna, you've been gone for a little while. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about what's happening here. And so I took the meeting, and it was probably about 10 minutes. It didn't take long at all. She said, listen, I know that you want to come back, but I also know that you are far too talented, and I
Mm,
refuse to let you come back to the school and hide behind a desk and a
wow.
computer.
Mm.
So, what I'm going to do is go ahead and fire you.
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
and yeah, I had no choice but to go, full force with the pursuit of a career in artistry. And her firing me was very much a gift because I was able to collect unemployment for a while. But,
Mhm.
I really had to figure things out, and I had to grind in New York City. And it built a lot of character and a lot of grit. My perseverance is on level 9,000. There's really
Mm.
nothing you can tell me, in
Right.
terms of hard work, because I'm always going to get my hands dirty. And yeah, like we were saying earlier, God will see you looking down into that pool. Well, I kind of want to jump, but boop,
Right, exactly.
and
Exactly. But I've got a
yeah,
question
so
though.
that's how it came to be.
So now, when you get that push and you're persevering, what were you persevering towards? Were you clear about what your next step was going to be at that time?
No, I started to pursue my original music somewhat, but I was journaling, I was praying a lot, and I was even blogging. I had a blog. I should go look for it. It was
Mm.
called Grinders Keepers.
Mm.
And the premise of the blog was I had decided that I could live a great life where I was not a starving artist, that I could be an artist and be well fed. And
Mm.
I wanted to encourage other creatives that they could do the same, even though I had no proof. I had no proof that it was
That
possible,
vision.
but I believed it. Yeah, I had a vision that it was attainable.
Hmm.
And so I worked as a caterer waiter for a few years. I just took on odd jobs to ensure that I was able to, um, sustain. I cashed out my 403B. My sister was a great help to me at the time financially. She gave me a few loans. I've been able to return the favor over the years.
Hmm.
But I I couldn't find the girl's phone number from American Idol.
Hmm.
And I was dating a guy at the time who had friends that were a couple that was married, and he wanted me to go with him to visit them. And so I went and I met them, and the husband was a singer, still is. And he said, "Hey, so I'm working with this entertainment company, and I get to travel the world singing for these events, and it's a really good living, and I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. You want to see our demo video?" I said, "Sure." He turns on the video, and I'm watching it. It's a rhythm section, so keys, bass, guitar, and drums. And there's four singers, two women, two men. And I lean in because one of the women looks so familiar. And I'm like, I look at him and I'm like, that's, and he's like, yeah, Claire. I said, Claire, I know her. Her and
There.
I American Idol together. What?
So
He's like, well,
funny.
yeah, she's one of the band leaders. And so it was kismet. It was like it was meant to be.
Mhm. Yes.
Um, and I reached out to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll let you know when we're having auditions, and I'll introduce you to the owner of the company." And then we lost touch again for a few months. And out of nowhere, the husband called me, and I was in the grocery store. I'll never forget it. I'm like, how am I going to make money as an artist? This can't be my life. I refuse to just struggle. And he called my phone. He said, "Hey, do you happen to have an EPK, an electronic press kit?" And I said, "You know what? I literally just created one last week. I don't know if it's any good." He said, "Send me the link to it, because we're having auditions for a singer. The other singer in our band, it didn't work out. And so we need someone to fill her spot. Would you be open to auditioning?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, well, send me your EPK and I'll pass it on to the band leader." He did. I got an audition. I thought I bombed it. I called my dad immediately after, like, oh my God, I gotta practice more. My dad's like, my dad's kind of hard on us kids, and he's like, yeah, you need to be rehearsing more. I told you can't just rest on your laurels, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I know, I learned my lesson. And before I could even make it home, they were calling me and asking me if I wanted the job, and the rest was history.
Wow.
I had this vision. I didn't know it was possible. I even had a contact, the girl, and that didn't lead me to it, but it still found its way to me because I was open. I refused to leave New York. I refused to believe that the life wasn't possible.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I'm just so grateful to God for everything, because I could not have written this story for myself. I really couldn't have.
So, for what you've built today and how you are living and how you are operating your business, is it the dream that you envisioned? Is it all that you've wanted?
Is it all that I wanted? That's a very thought-provoking question, and the reason I say that is because I'm in a stage in my life where I am coming face to face with whether my desires are because they are things that I truly desire, or whether they are desires that are a result of conditioning, from society and what the world says is success. I believe, just from what I've shared so far today, that I have gotten everything that I've wanted. Everything.
Wow.
I do think that there's so much more to life, and I'm really curious about what's in store. And I want God to surprise me. So I'm in this space where my vision for my life right now is literally, it's a blank slate. So it just means, hey, maybe I'll get pushed in again. I just don't know what I'm jumping into next.
Wow. Must be nice. Good place to be, right? No, it's a good place to
I think
be.
so. I think
Yeah.
so. Yeah. It can be
Feeling
scary.
very
Um,
at ease, you know what I mean? Just,
yeah.
which is a
Yeah.
good place, not like the stress that can come with entrepreneurship, you know, which is good. So then, so what's beyond entrepreneurship? What else does Keanna do? What's fulfilling in Keanna's life, separate of business?
Separate of business. Girlhood. I've really been getting in touch with 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year
Oh,
old,
you mean, oh,
16
so
year
like
old
little
Kiana.
ones and like mentoring little ones. Okay.
Mentoring little ones, but also mentoring myself. I don't have children. So aside from my businesses being the places where I nurture and parent and tend, um, I've been spending more time tending to myself. And what comes up quite a bit is, okay, well, what did 5-year-old Keanna need that she wasn't able to get? And how do I give that to her today? And
Hmm.
I find it to be such a restorative practice. And it wasn't intentional, to be honest with you. It just, um, we were talking about stillness earlier in the conversation, and it's one of the things that came up in just being still. Like, okay, well, there are different parts of me, and there's a part of me that still likes to play. So how do I tend to her? How do I give her the space to run and laugh and lay in the grass and color and paint and skate and daydream? That's really the space that I'm in right now.
Hmm. Okay. Hmm. So, what is next for you, right? So, I often ask people, like, this is living her next phase. And it's often, so I know you're looking for God to surprise you with what you can do from a professional standpoint. But is there anything that you have identified as that thing you have to have next? You know, and if you haven't, that's fine. But what does that next phase look like for you?
I would like for family to be the next phase. I think I've done a really great job of reaching a lot of the heights that I aspired to, career wise, just a lot of personal goals. I've traveled the world. I've, worked with very notable names and people in high places, if you will. I just feel like I'm in a place where I am I've filled my cup and there is enough. There is an overflow. There is a reservoir for me to give to others. And so I'm mentoring, like you mentioned, I am mentoring other women business owners, and I am a godmother to several beautiful children. One of
How
them is in
many? How many
college.
several?
I have four godchildren.
Wow.
One of them is in college. I will be spending some time with her this week or next week. Um, And yeah, I think starting my own family is an adventure that I'm now open to.
Okay. So may I ask when you
Any
said
tips?
any tips?
Yeah.
Any tips on what in particular, starting a family or what?
Any tips on what I can consider as I begin to envision what family means to me?
Hmm. I think it's, I have to laugh because I think it's great to have a vision, but just be open to nothing going as you planned. Just
I seem to be pretty good at
right. So you know what? So continue that because you can have a vision, and that doesn't mean that you don't plan big picture. It's more like the
that.
small
Absolutely.
steps along the way. It's like you think it's going to go one way and it takes turns, and you just have to be able to kind of go with the flow. You know, I
Okay.
know that when I was younger, I was like, I'm not even sure if I want to have kids. Just I don't know. I'm
Mm.
not sure if I want to get married. I'm not sure if I want to have kids. And then things just kind of happened. And I'm happy that they happened,
Mm.
you know? And all of the things that I've envisioned, how I wanted to raise my kids and how I wanted to manage my family, I stuck to those things. So the way that those things happen in between just kind of change along the way. But bigger picture, I want my kids. Okay, so quickly, I'm very focused on career and all that stuff, right? Never, like I said, didn't even know if I wanted to have kids. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Kids come. Then all of a sudden, I was faced with you can't do all of these things at one time, be putting in all these hours at work and really growing this career, not having help to raise my kids. My in-laws and my mom wasn't even nearby. So, and I'm not very trusting of people.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
having a nanny was not something that I ever really wanted. So I felt like I was forced to make some decisions, and ended up taking a turn towards consulting and then entrepreneurship. And then I had this thing where I just wanted my kids to remember key moments in their lives. Mom was always there for certain things taking place at school. Mom was always there to pick us up from the bus stop or pick us up from school itself, and have certain baked goods when they came home. And like you talk about, sound, to me was like the smell of things when they walked into the home and going, it feels warm, it smells warm. I wanted them to really have a great childhood to remember and reflect on
Yeah.
for their next phase of their lives with their kids. And so that meant I made
Mhm. Mhm.
sacrifices that I never had planned on doing. So when I
Mhm.
say just be
Mhm.
open for what comes your way, just, just do just that and embrace it as it comes. And I made sacrifices that I didn't think I would ever have to make, but I did.
Mm,
And I'm good with
yeah.
it now. You know what I mean? Because when I hear what my kids reflect on now, then I'm going, okay, I made the right decisions, you know? So it's just being open. Like I said, you have a big picture, but how you get there, don't feel like every step has to be kind of planned and manufactured, right? Just like kind of let it be. So,
Understood.
in my roundabout
Understood.
way, that would be the advice, you know? So,
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, like I said, that slate is clean. I have a blank canvas.
mm-hmm.
So, however God shows up in that area, I'm open to wholeheartedly.
I love your approach to things because it doesn't seem as though you force things to be. It's just, you just kind of let them happen. So in essence, you're letting God kind of steer your direction.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for saying that, by the way,
Yeah.
because it's really important to me. I think more on a subconscious level
Hmm.
to relinquish control. I mean, I think there are things that are within our control, and it's important for us to, kind of be at the helm of those things. But
Hmm.
I think a lot of life is really just, you said the word, flow, and it's
Right.
finding a way to go with the current as opposed to fighting against it. You end up expending so much more energy, and um I kind of like having my energy.
Right.
So
Right. Right. See, I
flow
have
is
to learn
important
to
to
get
me.
there. I'm always trying to. I'm giving advice that I haven't even followed myself because I need to
Well,
be
that's what we do.
more at ease.
Yeah,
I
we gotta
need
do
to
that.
let things flow, and I don't. I feel like I can guide my own steps, and I know that that's not really what's happening, but I'm fighting that, which is
Hmm.
foolish. You know what I mean? Because I can
Mm,
be a lot less stressed if I just kind of let
yeah,
things be. But one
yeah.
day, in my grown age, I'll let it be. I'll learn.
It'll happen. It's a daily decision. Honestly, it might be an hour by hour decision.
Hmm. True.
So give yourself some grace.
A little bit. So I'm curious though, like you mentioned self care earlier. Um, Part of that to me is like rewarding yourself for all the great things that you've done and, running your business. And um, so I'm curious, like, what do you allow yourself to splurge on things? And what's like one great thing you've splurged on to reward yourself for all the things that you've accomplished?
Well, I have definitely splurged. One time I called my sister and said, "Hey, let's go to Paris tomorrow."
Oh, tomorrow. I
On
love
me.
that. Oh, I'm sure she loved
That
that.
was probably my biggest splurge. That
Nice.
was a flex. Yeah, I love being able to do things like that for the people that I love. So I would say that was my biggest splurge ever.
Hmm.
For me, splurging is more about experiences. I don't
Hmm.
splurge a lot on material things,
Hmm.
but I as I get older, I'm realizing that I do spend money on quality, even if it's not necessarily attached to like, a specific designer. The materials are very important to me.
Hmm.
But as I get older, that's becoming more and more important. Wearing clothing that is made from natural fibers, or handbags that are genuine leather. Things that will last me over time. And I love a good deal. So if I can find those kinds of things while I'm thrifting or at a consignment store, those that's very thrilling for me. It's like treasure hunting.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I splurge on experiences. I'll go on a trip. I'll stay at a really, really nice hotel where I can be
Mhm.
pampered. I haven't splurged in a couple of no, that's not true. I went to Bali last year.
Oh,
And
nice.
I've decided the week Lumpur. Bali, and then I went from Bali to Kuala Lumpur, and then while in Kuala Lumpur, decided that I wanted to go to Cannes or Cannes. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it, Cannes, France.
Yeah, it depends on
And
who
so
you're
a
speaking
week and a half,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
I wanted to go to the Cannes. What is it called? The festival?
the
I can't
film
remember what
festival, the
the
Cannes
Cannes
Film
Film Festival.
Festival.
It's not.
Mhm.
I don't think it's the film festival. There's a huge festival they have. I don't think it's associated with film.
Yeah, Cannes.
I
Yeah.
could be wrong. Yeah, you might be right. But when I got there, there was no film associated with any of the things that any of the activations at all. But I've
Huh.
always wanted to go. Like always wanted to go. So literally a week and a half after I got back from Asia, I was like, I want to go to Cannes. It's in a week and a half, Keanna. I don't care. I want to go. And I bought a ticket.
Good for you.
So I'm fine. Yeah, I
That's a
haven't done
good one to
anything
put
as
on my list. I'm trying to make a list of things. I'm serious of things to do. Like that would be great, actually.
you
Thank
gotta
you.
go. And I think that this year, because of social media, I think that the crowds will be even more reflective of people who genuinely, want to be there for the experience, for the
Yes.
first time. So I would
Yes.
highly recommend it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay. So now, for someone who has created a life and a business pretty much based on aesthetics, visually, sound wise, what is your home like? Like when you look at designers who say fashion designers over the years, whatever different collections they're creating, um, it could be very colorful, it could be very minimalistic, and then often you can go to their homes, like if Architectural Digest does a piece and you say,
Hmm.
well, everything's white. You know what I mean? What happened?
Yeah.
You would expect something different, right? But it makes sense if they're dealing with color and texture and fabrics, and then it comes to their home and it's very minimal and peaceful. So how does that
Yeah.
translate from your business to your home? Like what is Kiana like?
I went through that white phase,
Okay.
but it wasn't me.
Mm,
It wasn't me. My bedroom is mostly white, but that's just because I wanted to tell a different story in my bedroom. I really just like the feel of plush white bedding. Um,
yes.
love a nice hotel bed,
Oh
and
yeah.
some of these hotels have the best bedding ever. And so it was an opportunity for me to recreate that. It wasn't about
Right.
it being void of color. It was more about how I wanted the room to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as for the rest of my house, I really like black and white together. So my kitchen is black and white, my bathroom is black and white, and then here my office slash living room is much more colorful. Has
Mm-hmm.
like a Moroccan. The palette is Moroccan for me. The inspiration. So yeah, I enjoy color. I think that some of my favorite voices in design are in terms of homes. I really love Bridget Romanek. I love Hans Lore. He has a newsletter that is incredible. There is a young Black woman interior designer that I've followed for many years named Tiffany Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
She has a background. I want to say it's in sneaker design because she worked at Nike for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
But she is, self-made, self-studied, and I just really like her POV on design. It's different. She takes risks, but it's still very curated. And I think her partner is a painter, and so I like that the way that she incorporates some of his pieces into her design aesthetic. So yeah, I love color. I like to change things up often. I'm one of those people where I can just wake up and be like, I don't want this room to be black and white anymore.
Yeah.
I want this room to be, mauve or purple or,
Right.
so yeah, I find my home means so much to me. It really,
Mm-hmm.
really, really does. I'm a homebody. I'm not much of an extrovert. I'm extroverted when I have to be,
Got it.
or because I have to be for the work that I do. But I love being home. My bungalow is quite small, but if it were not, I would love to host more dinner parties and tea
Mm,
parties and
okay.
things like that.
Like small, intimate gathering.
Yeah, there's a gift in hosting. I love the idea of hosting. That's such
Mm-hmm.
a I'm into that.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
home is a huge part of my I guess legacy, just who I
Okay.
am in general.
Okay. Okay. Well, to close out, I
Oh, I'm having so much fun talking to you.
trust me, I can ask a ton of more questions. I'm trying to
This
be
has been
respectful of
great.
your time.
No, you're awesome. I literally was saying earlier today that podcasts make me so nervous, and
Mm,
I don't often feel that I give the I don't feel I do the questions justice
mm,
because I feel like there's like only so much time to talk, and
right.
I want to say the thing that I think, people want to hear, and I've gotten away from all of that, and I
Good.
just want to thank you for, setting the tone in a way where I could really fully show up as myself. You're very easy to
Good.
talk to.
Oh, thank you. And I'm glad that, that you accepted the invitation to come. And it's exciting for me. Like I said, I was very intrigued from the moment I saw the name. And I'm like, oh, I have to dig a little further. And just speaking
Thank
to you
you.
here
Thank
and getting
you.
to know you, and having you share a lot is just makes me happy. I'm excited to have other people listen to the conversation and, hopefully get some inspiration to do what they want to do. You know what I mean? But you've been very easy to speak to as well. And this has been great. I
Thank
probably
you.
haven't even, I referenced my questions, but I haven't really had to look at them because this has been a very easy flow in the
Yeah,
conversation. So thank
absolutely. I
you for
agree.
this. So
Thank
I'd
you.
like to know what parting words could you give someone who is scared to kind of bet on herself? Right? So, as you talk about, or talked about earlier in the conversation, doing all of these things for someone else before making the decision to go out on your own, regardless of how that came to be, how would you advise someone else to just kind of go for it, even and then kind of working through those fears? And before you answer, I had to just thought about this again. Some last week I met a woman. Well, I had met her at a conference before, but last week she asked me to answer a couple of questions. One of the questions was like basically like what advice would you give someone who's in a corporate environment to like what would be that thing that you would tell them to do or not do? Something to that effect. And my response was I would tell women to not give their best ideas to their employers, but, feel good about what their value is and what they know and potentially just branch out on their own, even if it's as a side hustle, but save your best ideas for yourself. And you may have done that inadvertently, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Throughout your journey working for someone else and then kind of going out on your own. With
Hmm.
all of that, what would you advise that next person to do for herself?
Um, I would say, hmm, be still.
Hmm.
It's counter to what is happening around us. Everything's moving so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Time, money, business, the
Mm-hmm.
government, family, the kids are zipping, they're growing quickly. Um, things are always moving.
Mm.
Find, carve out time to be still. I think that we have gifts as women that honestly can't really even be put into words a lot of the time. And we have intuition, our value systems are just, they are gifts. When you allow stillness, you can hear your higher self, you can hear God, you can hear nature. You allow space. And with that space, you allow inspiration. Um, you have an opportunity to zero in on your vision, or you have an opportunity to say, I don't have a vision yet. But women need time
Mm.
and stillness to do that. Carve it out, give yourself that gift, and whatever direction you decide to go, really, really own it. One of the things I realized very young was that even if I didn't know the direction that I wanted to go, I knew how I wanted to feel. And so to bring the conversation full circle, it makes sense why that's how I approach design with my clients. You know how you want to feel, if nothing else.
Mm.
If nothing else, you know how you want to feel. When you allow yourself that stillness, you give yourself an opportunity to begin to um, feel the pull for what direction to go to to embody and manifest that feeling.
Mm.
So that is what my advice would be. Probably is very woo woo, tree hugger, touchy feely, but
Hey, that's fine.
I'm okay with it,
Yes.
and I know that it works from personal experience. So that would be what I would say to do.
Mm. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I love that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for
This was
being
great.
open and vulnerable and sharing. I would think more about you than definitely what's online, right? Because I was digging, so, so I
Yes,
appreciate
yes.
that.
This is definitely the most transparent I've been. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you for making me feel comfortable doing so.
You are so welcome. And thank you for being a guest on this podcast, Living Her Next Phase podcast, where accomplished women come to speak honestly about what's next. And so, thank you.
Thank you, Bree. This has been great.
Great.